Hi my bunnies and welcome back to my channel. You might be going, what is this video? Well, it's my birthday this week, so I wanted to just make a video that I wanted to make, just a random one, you know, whatever. And I didn't make any videos about the Fruits Basket news that came out about the new anime, even though I kind of wanted to. I was really kind of just keeping it inside for whatever reason. And now the anime is about to come out and I am so excited. So I thought I'd talk about Fruits Basket and what it means to me. But I'm not going to be doing it like a deep dive into the anime versus the manga or anything like that. I'll probably do that later because I care about Fruits Basket a lot, so you'll probably get a video about that. This is more of a video about my specific love for the manga and why I got into it, and it's actually the basis of how I got into anime and manga even further. So here we go. So when I was in high school, I was starting to get into anime. I was remembering shows I'd watched as kids, like as a kid. I wasn't more than one kid. I watched Pokemon, I watched Sailor Moon, and that's what made me go like, oh, Sailor Moon, I remember that from when I was a kid. I can't talk today. And I watched it, and then I got more into anime. I was like, well, I want to watch more. So I watched Ouran Host Club, and I watched Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, and then I went to my local library. I was homeschooled for high school, so going to the library was kind of a fun thing I would do, and I was very blessed with a local library that was huge for one thing, but it wasn't just that I had a ton of books, it also had a lot of manga. It has probably the biggest amount of manga I've ever seen in a library, and I don't think I've seen one comparatively since. And luckily, this library had the full set of Fruits Basket manga. Actually, my readings at the library is really what got me into manga, because at the time, that's all I could read. I wasn't reading it on the internet. It just wasn't really on the internet yet, I think, and I didn't know how to get to it. I was just a 16, 17-year-old kid. I didn't know. So whenever I went to the library, I would pick up manga to read, and I couldn't be choosy because even though they had a lot of manga, it was still a limited amount. So I read basically anything, and it's kind of to a point now where I wish I was still that way, because now I kind of just stick within the same realm of manga that I already love. I don't explore as much because there's so much to read. But back then, I just read whatever, and one of the first manga volumes I ever picked up was Fruits Basket, the first volume. You can't see it, it's too bright in here. And I immediately fell in love with this series. And I can't even really explain why. I think Fruits Basket just came to me at a time in my life when I needed it. It deals a lot with these characters that have this overbearing, not parent figure, but an overbearing leader figure that kind of keeps them there with some semblance of like messed up version of love. And all these characters are interesting. Like every single one of these characters is interesting, and they're all written so well, and I got obsessed with it. I read all the manga volumes, and then after that I started collecting all of the manga volumes, and I did this solely by going to Half Price Books like every week and picking up the volumes that were there. So within a year or so, I managed to get every one of the 23 volumes that I still have. I brought them with me from Wisconsin, and they're like my most prized possession because I really worked so hard to get those. And it's actually the only manga series I have in completion in my collection. And I was really obsessed with it. Rin was my favorite character ever, and I don't know why. Even like thinking about it now, because I'm a very different person than I was when I was like deep into Fruits Basket is like, why did I love Rin so much? She's probably like the most badass female character in Fruits Basket, and Fruits Basket doesn't have a lot of girl characters, and I just identified with her a lot for some reason. Our backgrounds are very different, but like somewhat similar. And I don't know, I wanted to be that edgy scene kid when I was in high school. Which when I was in high school, the scene was on its way out because MySpace was done and Facebook was just coming in. So I really missed the boat on that, but I wanted to be a scene kid like so bad. And for some reason, I really identified that with really liking anime characters that were like dark, edgy, emo characters. And Rin very much is. And I still love her just for that nostalgia, but she's definitely not a character I would probably really like today. Although me liking the darker character is still kind of a thing that I do, but not as much as I did when I was a kid for whatever reason. I was just that edgy teen that looked like an Amish girl for some reason. All the characters in Fruits Basket are so good, and I am going to say that in this video I will probably accidentally spoil things. So if you've only read the anime, you've never read the manga, spoiler alert, I might not be able to stop myself from spoiling things, but I'll try my best. And I highly recommend, actually, I'm kind of in a weird in-between place. My husband has only ever watched the anime, and the original anime, and has never read the manga. So he didn't understand when I first watched the anime why I didn't like it. Rewatching it, I realized that my original opinion was a little harsh, but that's when I was super into Fruits Basket. What the anime gets right, they get right, and I do have to hand them that what they were doing was fine up until the end. The ending of the anime feels incomplete. It only covers about a quarter of the manga, so you're barely getting anything. And the manga really picks up after that point, really. So that's what kind of sucks about it. So I don't like that about it. But what the manga gets right, like I said, they get right, and I can't fault them for that. But so this new anime is coming out, and I keep on wanting to tell my husband things. I'm like, Ken, you have to know about this. This is so cool, and I can't wait to see it in the anime. But at the same time, I want him to have a very, very wholesome experience. Like I want it to be like how I read the manga the first time, where I experienced everything for the first time and it was very genuine. And I want him to have that same experience in hopes that this anime is very close to the manga. I have very high hopes for it, so I'm assuming it will be. And I want him to have that, but at the same time, I just want to tell him every single thing I know about Fruits Basket, which is what I'm going to try not to do in this video. Mostly I wanted to talk about my favorite characters, because I think what makes Fruits Basket such a good story is the characters. Because the plot itself, while it's interesting in its own right, is very, very reliant on the characters to carry it, I feel like, and the characters are just all so good. I think you can't go wrong with liking any of the characters for whatever reasons that you have for liking them. Like I already said, my favorite character is Rin, and I'm not really going to elaborate on her like at all, because if you haven't read the manga and you've only seen the anime, you don't know who that character is. Because Rin, there is a character named Rin, that's not it. Rin is not in the anime at all. She only actually started showing up about the time that the anime ends-ish. She kind of like comes and goes until she actually becomes part of the story. And so I'm not going to talk about her because I feel like her whole character is a spoiler. But she's great. I love her. But my second favorite character is Hatsuharu. He is a character that is so weird to me. I think I also partially liked him because he is a cow, and I'm from Wisconsin and we love cows, which is probably also why I like Rin so much, because she's the horse and I love horses. I was a huge horse fan when I was still transitioning out of being the horse girl, so that really helped Rin as a horse. So I don't know, Hatsuharu is such an interesting character in his black and white like versions, but then he's also like, he's such a quirky dude. He's just like so weird, and you like never know what he's thinking, but he's so cute that way. I don't know. Hatsuharu was really like my first husbando of Fruits Basket. Keep in mind that's not as weird saying that, because when I was really into it, I was still a teenager. Nowadays, I would probably lean towards Shigori being my husbando. So let's talk about Shigori. I think a lot of people, if they hear me say that Shigori is one of my favorite characters, and they've only watched the anime, you'd probably be like, oh yeah, I love Shigori too. He's hilarious. He's like the funniest character. Yeah, he is, but that's not the reason I like him so much. I think it's kind of hard if you've never read the manga. It's hard to explain why you like Shigori so much, and he's such an in-depth character. Let's say that. Shigori he has layers to him. He's an ogre, apparently, in my mind. He, like, on the surface, yeah, he's just this kind of goofy writer who's just plays around. But then it's like you go farther into the manga and you sometimes look at him and you're like, who are you? What? And I think that's part of the reason why I like him so much, that you're always on your toes around him. And he's so interesting that way. He's such a deep character, which on the surface he doesn't seem to be, but then you just keep on like learning things about him. You see it a lot of times, not when he's around the kids. When he's around the kids, he's very much just that fun Shigori, but when he's around other adults, when he is around Ayame and Hattori, he's different. And while he's still goofy and like he flirts with Ayame and Hattori and stuff, but then he'll say something or he'll give a look and you'll be like, what did that mean? What is he saying? What does he know? And as you go farther into the series, you just realize, and why I can't really talk too much about him, is that he has his hands in everything in this story. He is such a central part without even really, like, you don't even know it. You don't know it until you think about it, and you're like, there he is. I don't know. I feel like he's hard to explain in that sense, especially if you haven't read the manga. If this were a spoiler video and I wanted to just spill out everything, I feel like it would take a while for me to explain everything that he does in this manga. And he's just such a good character. I'm not saying that he's a good person or a bad person. I'm just saying he's a really good character. He's such a deep character. Another character I'm going to talk about that I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way as to why I like this character, but one of my next favorite characters is Yuki. But I don't ship him with Toru. I don't actually like the love triangle between Toru, Kyu, and Yuki. It's a love triangle that's in there for like a pretty good chunk of the manga. But I think it's pretty obvious from the start that Kyo and Toru are gonna end up together. That's just the way it is. And I don't typically ship outside of what the author has already dictated is the ship. And I think in the manga and in the anime, it's pretty obvious that those two end up together. But what I like is that Yuki isn't just left out in the cold. Yuki has such a good backstory and conclusion that I really appreciate about him. At the surface, like just starting the manga, I was not really that big a fan of Yuki, to be honest. He was kind of like, whatever. Like he's kind of like, Kyo is definitely a more fun character to like. But if you like that like cool princely type, then of course you're gonna like Yuki. But I don't know. He wasn't, obviously I was into Hatsuharu, but like as I kept reading the series and as they added more to Yuki's character, I definitely liked him a lot more, and I liked how he is as a character and what they did with him. So Yuki he's not rejected by Toru in any sense. He comes to the conclusion on his own of why he actually isn't in love with Toru, and he kind of lets Kyo continue from there, actually kind of helping him and going like, hey, if you want her, you gotta get her. And that's a pretty cool thing. So after Yuki figures out that he's not in love with Toru, it's not just Yuki isn't just dropped from the story. He has such an interesting conclusion to his story. Yuki was probably one of the characters that was tortured the most by Akito. It's Akito's relationship with his Zodiac members are so weird, and like some of them he doesn't care about, and some of them he cares about too much, and some of them he just fucking tortures. And Yuki's definitely a weird in between of loving them and also wanting to torture them. Akito's a strange one, and we'll probably talk about him in an actual Fruits Basket like review video. But here I'm just gonna say that. And yet, despite all of Yuki's torturings, he's such a caring character. He comes out of it just caring about everybody. But he's still really closed off. And because of that, he doesn't really have any friends. So what's interesting is like going into the rest of the story, Yuki decides to go for student council president, and then he has to learn to interact with his student council members, and they show it in such a good way. It's so fun to see him learn how to deal with a crazy character like Kakeru, and then also deal with his weird sister. And then Yuki just learning to have friends, learning to like be a person again without like Akito overshadowing him, and learning to find love. I'm not gonna elaborate on that because that's a spoiler, and I know some of what I just said was a spoiler, but I'm not gonna go too deep into that. But I love that they gave him a conclusion that way, that you saw him grow as a character and really like have a good ending. I do love that Fruits Basket has a very nice, happy ending. So I like that we actually get to see that Yuki has a happy ending, and it's very satisfying. It's a very satisfying ending for him. I love that the series basically ends on him, which is kind of cool because it kind of started with him. And that being said, another reason why I love Yuki so much is that he's such a caring character. To the point where he like inserts himself into people's drama that he shouldn't. Probably the reason why I like him the most is his involvement with Hatsuharu and Rin's relationship. He just kind of goes for it. I like that in something that they ignored completely in the anime was a part where, and this happens pretty early on in the series, so I don't feel like it's that big of a spoiler, but Hatsuharu basically destroys his classroom, and Yuki, Kyo, Momiji, and Toru all go to investigate, but after he's like calmed down, all the rest of the characters but Yuki leave Hatsuharu, and Yuki stays behind and is like, hey, like, what's going on? Because it's weird for him to turn black for no reason. So like, what happened? And then he goes to the bottom of that. And then he goes to Rin, who absolutely hates him, and tries to figure out what their deal is. And I think that's such a like sweet character trait of his, that he just did that. Like, Hatsuharu didn't ask him to. He likes Hatsuharu, and Hatsuharu goes for Yuki. So, of course, it was kind of like, well, he's my friend, and I love Hatsuharu, so I'm gonna go and help him, even if the person I have to go talk to wants me dead. And I think it is just a really nice character trait that he is somebody who was completely tortured and had a terrible childhood, and actually comes out of it as a very like caring person who kind of he gets his good ending, and I really enjoy that. On the flip side, I could also say that's why I like Hatsuharu so much too. He cares about Yuki so much that he goes out of his way to help him as well. I love the dynamic of all four of those characters. Shigori wasn't added in there, but he's in there somewhere probably. That being said, I feel like this is a very rambly video, so I guess this is more of just talking about my favorite characters from Fruits Basket. I feel like I can't get too far into the plot. I'm not trying to review spoilers. I'm just talking about my love for Fruits Basket and how much it means to me. And this manga is still with me to this day. I actually haven't read it in a few years to be honest, but it still stayed at my #1 spot despite all the manga I've read for so long. The only manga that rivals it is a manga called Blackbird, which I will definitely make a video on that because it's also one of my favorite mangas ever. And I felt like Fruits Basket just really deserved another anime because, like I said, the original one felt unfinished and rushed at the end. And it's such a good series. It deserves a really good anime. And I'm so glad that a new generation of people who may have never read the manga, it gets a revitalization. And it's a manga that deserves it. And I'm so happy for it. And it's so exciting. And I can't wait for it to come out. So yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. Again, it's weird, it's rambly. I don't know. So I hope you guys liked it. Tell me what you feel about Fruits Basket. If you've read it, if you've only read the manga, what do you think about it? Are you excited? Whatever. Tell me something, you know? Say that this was a stupid video and you didn't like it. Whatever you want to do. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!